Hi, I'm Steve Clemons, and I have a question. As Israel pursues its plans for total victory, with no incentive to stop, and with the U.S. presidential election days away, what options do the Palestinians have? Let's get to the bottom line. In the northern Gaza Strip, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are now living a whole new wave of nightmares. Since the beginning of October, Israeli forces have choked the supply of medicine, of food, and water, and stepped up their bombing of hospitals and refugee shelters all over again, killing dozens of people every day. The plan seems to be to empty out the entire area this time. After Israel killed the head of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, U.S. President Joe Biden said there's now a chance for, quote, ending this war once and for all. But on the ground, it just doesn't look like that at all, especially as Israel expands its war on Lebanon and threatens to attack Iran. So where is the region going, and what does the future hold for the millions of Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza? Today, we're speaking with veteran Palestinian politician and activist Mustafa Barghouti, the co-founder of the National Initiative Party. Dr. Barghouti, you and I have literally been speaking to each other for decades about the hopes for Palestinian justice, autonomy, a state, something. And I just have to ask, out of conscience, are we anywhere near anything that would deliver justice or deserved hope for Palestinians? I'd love to just get your map of how you see things right now and looking ahead in the future.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you. As you said, we've been talking for decades. I still remember our first interview in Washington. Contrary to what many people would think, I personally do believe that we are closer to our right of achieving self-determination and our victory. Although we are now in the most horrible point of the history of our struggle. We've never had this level of atrocity. We've never have seen this level of sacrifices that our people have to give, including so many people killed, so many people injured, the terrible devastation in Gaza, the terrible expansion of settlements in the West Bank. Everything is unprecedented, really. But in my opinion, the Zionist Israeli movement, the whole settler colonial project that Israel initiated, has reached a point of crisis that it really cannot continue. And the main factor why they are in this crisis is because of the steadfastness, the heroism of the Palestinian people, who refuse to give up, refuse to surrender, refuse to accept a life of subjugation or enslavement to the Israeli occupation or the system of apartheid. I know it sounds a bit maybe too optimistic, but I do believe that we are really closer to the point of our success and closer to the point of ending this terrible situation.
So with that being said, let me ask you about something that seems to be playing out, at least in front of my eyes. We've been talking for a year about whether the world may be seeing elements of genocide. But when you see what's going on right now in northern Gaza, you see Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State of the United States, on his 11th trip, trying to get Israel to disavow what's called the general's plan to starve, kill, and or displace all 400,000 Palestinians still in the northern Gaza Strip. That's happening. We're seeing this happen. We're seeing the debate over aid trucks. We're seeing, all of this go on. So I understand that you see hope amidst the ashes, but aren't the ashes getting a lot worse right now?
Much worse, absolutely. And it is not only Israel to blame, but also the United States administration. And on top of them is Blinken, definitely, who I believe is working for Netanyahu rather than for Biden, although Biden himself has been so disappointing. I mean, look at one very specific thing they've done, which is that to say to Israel that you have to solve the problem of lack of humanitarian aid to Gaza. They know very well that 2.2 million people are starving, not only in the north, but everywhere. And they tell them, you have to solve this problem, but we give you a whole month. To do what? To finish the job of ethnic cleansing in the north of Gaza? Israel is conducting 3 war crimes in parallel all the time. The war crime of genocide, the war crime of collective punishment, including starving people, and the war crime of ethnic cleansing. And now they are trying really to conduct the ethnic cleansing of the north. Netanyahu never gave up his original plan of ethnic cleansing of all of Gaza Strip, because that's what his strategic grand plan includes. He wants to get rid of the Palestinian people on the land of historic Palestine. And he thought that he has an opportunity now in Gaza by pushing out 2.2 million people. He failed because people did not accept this process and steadfasted and sacrificed. But now he's trying to do that in the north. As you said, 400,000 people are now threatened. They are pushing them from one area to another with bombardment. And not any bombardment, airstrikes, drone strikes, artillery, indiscriminate bombardment, which can be horrible, horrifying. And then, of course, they are trying to move them from one place to another. And then when they get to another place, they come back after them.
Right.
That's what's happening now in Beit Lahia. Every day, we lose between 70 and 100 Palestinians, mostly children and women.
Mustafa, you talk about President Biden, and we're right now just before a presidential election in the United States. What should the President of the United States, whomever he is or she is, have been doing in this crisis, and what should they do from this point forward?
Well, what was done by the American administration is absolutely unacceptable. Not only they contributed to the genocide, they practically participated in it by supplying Israel with so much weapons and so much financial aid to continue this terrible war on the people of Gaza. Now the future administration, I don't know who will be elected in the United States, but whoever is there, the big question will be, what will they do with this situation? And I think maybe Kamala Harris will be a little bit more sensitive definitely than Trump. But I think the least that is needed here is less biased position to Israel. I don't expect it to happen, but unfortunately, I don't expect it to happen, but I have to say it. If they really want to play a positive role, they have to stop being so biased to the Israeli side. They have to stop being so supportive of the Israeli narrative. They have to accept us Palestinians as equal human beings. They have to stop using double standard. When you compare, and I don't mean only the United States administration, I mean many other Western governments. They look at their positions in Ukraine and what they do to us here in Palestine. This double standard is applied to us not only in comparison to other countries, but even to Israelis. If an Israeli child is killed, that is a horrible thing, and I agree. But when 17,000 Palestinian children are killed, nothing is said. And nothing is said about the atrocity. If a Palestinian is fighting for his freedom, he's accused of being a terrorist. But when Netanyahu kills 17,000 children and more than 11,000 women and destroys 80% of Palestinian homes in Gaza, nobody says that Netanyahu is a terrorist. So this level of double standard, of course, is totally counterproductive. But on the other hand, it reduces any respect to the United States as a superpower.
What stops or derails Prime Minister Netanyahu from just continuing this? Because in my book, he's winning. He looks at himself as Israel's biggest political winner of all time. And I'd love to hear a different thesis.
Look, in the first or second month of this terrible aggression on Palestinians, I explained that this is exactly what Netanyahu was going to do. I said that he doesn't care about Israeli prisoners. He wishes maybe that they all die. I said that he will not stop the war and he will expand it to include Lebanon, and that he will try everything he could to create a war with Iran and then drag the United States to fight Iran for him, as they did in Iraq. So this is his plan, and he's implementing it. Now, of course, yes, he killed so many Palestinian and Lebanese leaders, and he has expanded his war, as we said. But in the long run, what is he achieving? First of all, killing leaders of Palestinian or Lebanese resistance does not stop the resistance. In this case, Netanyahu doesn't understand the mentality of the people here. And he doesn't see that each time he kills a leader, he makes him a hero and an icon for struggle. As a matter of fact, he was seeking an image of victory. He and Gallant and Halevi, and they were competing with each other to achieve that. But Sinwar, when he was killed fighting, gave them not an image of victory, but an image of failure. They failed to find him for a whole year. He found them. And they failed to prove all of their lies about him, as if he was hiding in tunnels and sending other people to fight, or hiding behind the civilians, or hiding among Israeli prisoners. All of that proved to be lies, and he showed it by fighting. And in a way, he made himself an icon of struggle, something that Netanyahu cannot erase. Now, on the other hand, yes, he has expanded his war. He's fighting now in Lebanon. But in my opinion, he's expanding his activity to the level that so many weaknesses are starting to appear. I don't think Israel can tolerate this for a very long time. I don't think they can tolerate the human losses. I said that from the very beginning, although I didn't expect them to prolong this war for a whole year. Now, they are also facing very serious economic crisis that is unprecedented in the history of Israel. Their economy is shrinking. Their whole sectors have collapsed, including not only tourism, but also agriculture and big parts of IT. Investors are running away from Israel. Israel has lost billions of dollars of investment. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis, according to Israeli media, have left Israel also. So the picture is not rosy for Netanyahu, as some people might think. There are difficult at the level of the world. Israel has never been perceived in such a manner as a pariah structure, a pariah state, if you want. And I do expect that there will be more even changes in the rise of boycott, divestment, sanctions campaigns against Israel. I know that there are many weaknesses here, including the failure of the Arab and Muslim countries to do what they should do in support of the Palestinian people. I know that Netanyahu is relying on the total support of the United States, but I do believe that he's now beginning to face a cost that he cannot and will not be able to tolerate.
Let me ask you about Israel and not basically taking account or heed of any of the UN resolutions calling for a ceasefire, not doing this. I'm just wondering how Palestine is seeing this moment in the UN, looking at so many in the world that are giving vocal support. But I don't see Jordan ripping up a peace treaty. I don't see Egypt changing its profile. I see a lot of words. I don't see a lot of action. I'm just interested in what the game is from Palestine's perspective, from statecraft, what it does next.
Look, we do understand, and I do understand, that statements will not stop Netanyahu. The United Nations could not implement 800 resolutions supporting Palestinian rights of the General Assembly. They couldn't even implement the 82 resolutions that came from the Security Council itself. And why is that? Because powerful countries like the United States are not ready to push for the implementation of these resolutions. We are not relying on others to solve our problems. And I think, as I said, statements will not stop Israel. What will stop Israel is three factors: the steadfastness of the Palestinian people, the resistance of the Palestinian people, the Lebanese people, and all others that are harmed and attacked by Israel, and a global anti-apartheid, anti-occupation movement worldwide. I think these are the three factors that are happening. Now, regarding, of course, we are absolutely disappointed with the reaction of many Arab countries. But people don't learn from history. All they need to do is to look at what happened in many Arab countries after 1948, the first Nakba. So many dramatic changes took place. And I assure you, at the grassroots level, in so many countries, the people are boiling because of they see what's happening to Palestinians. To me, the victory is about one specific point. If we stay in Palestine, if we manage to steadfast, if Israel doesn't succeed in ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, whether in Gaza or the West Bank or even in 1948 areas, then we will succeed. So the most important task for us here is to stay in our land. And that's exactly what the Zionist leaders, like the person you mentioned, are trying to dismiss. They are now talking about resending settlers to Gaza. Look at statements like Ben Gvir, who said that we should evict people from Gaza so that Israeli settlers can go back there. The level of fascism here is beyond description. And what is painful, really, and what is really worrying is that the fascist tendencies are not only in the Israeli government, in people like Smotrich and Ben Gvir and Netanyahu himself, but it is in the Israeli society. That is very serious and very dangerous. They might feel very powerful at the moment, but deep down, inside, this is something that will work as a cancer that will eat them from within. Because fascism, which is now attacking Palestinians, will eventually also start attacking Israelis. At least maybe they will begin with secular Israelis, with Democrats, people who believe in democracy. But eventually, this will affect Israel terribly and deeply. I've never seen anything like that. I don't know of anything like that in modern history, except maybe what happened in Germany at one point of time. And that is a very dangerous moment. The fact that fascism has grown so dramatically, so deeply in the Israeli society, that is something that every Jewish person in this world should be worried about.
How do you see a future where what Hamas did, what Hamas stood for, doesn't become a celebration in the future for Palestinians, that all of Palestine doesn't become what Hamas, hasn't Hamas achieved its goals of securing itself so deeply in the Palestine story, given what Israel has done now, that it's very hard to separate those in the future? Or are there Palestinians that somehow can carve a different course in the future?
My dear friend, you understand that the first thing that Netanyahu did in the beginning, on the 8th of October, was to start by dehumanizing Hamas, and then using that to dehumanize all Palestinians, to justify his atrocities against every Palestinian child, woman, and man in such a horrible way. This classification of people as terrorists is something that is totally unacceptable to me. And let me remind you that Nelson Mandela, who became the elected president of South Africa, and with whom every American president was trying to get a photo opportunity, that man was still on the terrorist list of the American Congress, even after he was elected as president of South Africa. So this classification is of people who struggle for their rights as terrorists is totally unacceptable. It is coming from colonial thinking, from racist thinking, which believes that the people that are not like us, I mean, in this case, it is the American approach or the Israeli approach, are terrorists because they are fighting for their rights.
Right.
Let me remind you that not only Hamas is classified as terrorist, PLO is classified as terrorist. PLO, the same PLO that signed Oslo Agreement. So this, first of all, this classification is unacceptable. Second, no, the history did not start on the 7th of October. And 7th of October could have been easily avoided had we have any little hope of of peace in this region or a solution of our suffering. What happened 7th of October was a result, an outcome, rather than a cause. It was a result of 76 years of ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. Don't forget that 70% of the people of Gaza, including Sinwar himself, were refugees who were displaced from their hometowns that were erased to the ground by Israel in 1948. It was a result of 57 years of occupation, the result of 17 years of terrible, suffocating siege imposed on Gaza, till we had a situation where 80% of young graduates in Gaza were unemployed. People did not have clean water, did not have electricity, did not have economy. We could have avoided this war easily if Netanyahu was not declaring every morning that he's going to liquidate the Palestinian issue and cause completely through normalization with the Arab countries. If Netanyahu and Trump did not declare the end of the Palestinian rights, this situation would not have happened if Netanyahu did not stand in the United Nations 2 weeks before the 7th of October showing a map of Israel, including West Bank and Gaza, annexed to Israel. And then later, Netanyahu said this phrase, which is very dangerous. He said, Gaza was implanted in Israel. What does that mean? So, in my opinion, even, if we had the chance to democratically elect our leadership in 2021, if Israel and the United States did not oppose that, had we have these democratic elections, no single party would have gotten an absolute majority. But I'm sure, had we have these elections, this war would not have happened. So the big question here is whom to blame. And the big question here is how can we justify the continuation of this terrible oppression of a whole Palestinian people since 1948, continuously, day after day. I am a person, like many other Palestinian leaders, who lived all his life under military occupation, oppressed, deprived of basic normal life, deprived of our rights of free movement, and then accused of being terrorists because we are struggling for freedom, for the same values that American presidents keep advocating every time they have elections.
You're such an important voice, and I'm so grateful that you come on the show and give us a snapshot of your perspectives. I hope you will keep coming back, and I hope some of the hope that you see ahead is something we can talk about in future discussions. Mustafa Barghouti, co-founder of the Palestinian National Initiative, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be with you.
So what's the bottom line? 5 years ago, the brilliant Cameroonian historian Joseph Akile Mbembe created a new term, necropolitics. It sounds scary, and it should be. It's basically a theory that explains how power is used to dictate who gets to live and who doesn't. In my view, nowhere is this theory more on display than in Israel's adventurism in the Middle East. One day I'm following one of my favorite TikTokers from Gaza, Mido Halimi, who always delighted his viewers with how he was staying upbeat, how he was planting something in his camp garden, how he was trying to stay safe. And then the next day he's killed by an Israeli airstrike. Sure, Sinwar and Nasrallah are dead, but that doesn't change the basic fact. Millions of Palestinians are being starved and bullied out of their homes and land. Again, Israel and its main benefactor, the United States, still think they can bomb their way to total victory. But I know history indicates otherwise. And that's the bottom line.